I am so sorry. I was muted. I apologize for that. Um, Let me start over again. Uh, Welcome to the channel. If you don't know me, my name is Angela. I'm a front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota. Last week we started building a landing page. This is a template that I've had for ages, a Photoshop template called Soho. I think I got it on Theme Forest. I haven't used them in years. Theme Forest. I've had this, I think, maybe 10 years, something like that. We wrote all of the HTML top to bottom. We started styling. We got the header and the hero banner styled. Tonight, I want to finish styling the body. I want to finish styling these icons. We'll go ahead and work on the Instagram feed, and we'll go ahead and do the footer. I did start a GitHub repository. Where are you? I'll make sure that this gets linked. It's called Soho Layout. I will make sure that it gets linked in the show notes. I'm not going to include the Photoshop template because it's a paid template, so I don't want to give away that file, even though I think it's 10 years old. But I'm happy to give away the code. So anybody who wants to fork this repo, you're welcome. You're welcome to do so once we finish here. My hope is that by watching this, I actually inspire you to go out and find your own templates. There are lots available online for free. And if you really want to practice your HTML and CSS, this is a really terrific way to do it. Just find a basic layout, practice your Flexbox, practice your images. We're going to spend some time tonight looking at the best way to proportionally, responsively size your images. And yeah, let's get started. So I have my VS Code open. I've had this open for a week. I haven't really done anything with it. I just left it up. So let's go ahead and go live and actually look at this and see where we are at. So you can see here that nothing else is styled other than the header and the hero. So yeah, let's do it. Let me just organize my screen here a bit. There we go. Come on. There. And again, we're in VS Code, vanilla JavaScript, or excuse me, vanilla CSS. Maybe I should just talk for a second about why I decided to do vanilla CSS. I decided that because I've been writing Sass for 10 years. I use it in my personal projects. I use it in my client projects. I use it at work. I love Sass. It's so easy. It's a great framework for writing CSS, but I've also been in plenty of situations where I needed to write some vanilla CSS. And I wanted to demonstrate that you could do anything with vanilla CSS. And honestly, if you're new to this, maybe Sass is intimidating. Maybe you don't feel like you're ready to jump into that. That's totally fine. You still need to have a basic core understanding of vanilla CSS. So I really just wanted this to be something really approachable for new developers or anybody who is new to HTML and CSS and wants to sort of build that skill. So let's get started. Okay, so we need to work now on our body. And here's our header, here's our hero, here's the body right here. It's in a section, so we have this H2 which sits outside the section. We're definitely going to need a wrapper. I think last time I made a wrapper for the header called inner wrap, and I think this is a wrapper that should really be applied to anything because we have this layout where clearly there are boundaries here holding this in. So I would say for, yeah, pretty much everything, maybe excluding the Instagram, excluding our Instagram feed, that would not need a wrapper. Everything else does. Even the hero needs a wrapper, because if you decided to add more text to this, if you decided to add call to action buttons, you would want to keep those contained, or if you just had a title that was bigger than this space, or if you maybe you want to left justify it, right justify it, whatever. So it's a good idea to keep it in the hero. So what did I do here? So for the hero, did we put in, we really didn't put in, I'm going to leave the hero for now, but I anticipate that I'm going to come back in and add that inner wrap. And I think what I want to do is I want the inner wrap to always be display flex, to always have this max width of 75 rems, which is 1200 pixels, and to always be centered with margin 0 auto. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it up here after my access hidden. Now anything that I add as a container with an inner wrap will be taken care of. So we should now be able to come down here, and we're going to add a div dot inner underscore wrap. I'll take this and put it after the 1/2. And then I'm going to take my H2 header, which if we see here, the header is centered, but really what this means is this header is going to take up the full 12 column width. It's just going to have the center title. If we put that inside the inner wrap, which has a display of flex, then we have 1/2, which is our image, 1/2, which is our content. It's also going to try to style the secondary header like a child inside that flex container, and we don't want that. So we can keep that outside of the inner wrap, so it's not treated like a child of display flex. And I think that that will work well for us. So you can see here, this is getting display flex now, but we have to go in and actually assign a width. Yeah, so I think that works really well. H2s are block level elements, so by default it will take up the full width of the container unless you specify another display type or you give it a very specific width. I'm fine having it take up the entire width of the container. Now, if you, I guess to future-proof it, you could also put a wrap around this. Presumably you could have a title that is so long it would exceed those boundaries, that 75 rem boundary. I'm going to proceed as if this is a title that fits neatly into that container. And we'll go from there. If we decide that we have to add one later, we definitely can. So let's add a class for secondary header. We'll come down here. Secondary, and I did a dash header. And I'm just going to say text align center. And I think we're going to want to, I think the other thing I was thinking I wanted to do is I want to expand our font family. When we did our Google fonts, we did weight 400 and weight 700, and I'm going to add a weight of 300, which is a light, because I do want some of my text to be a little lighter. So let's do a font size. I'm going to do 2 rems for now. We'll do a font weight of 300. And do I need, I don't think I need to do anything else. And maybe just some letter spacing. We'll do 1 pixel and we'll see how that looks. I like that, and I think it should be text transform as well. Yeah, that should be, let's zoom in a little bit on that. We'll zoom in, and then let me show you how I would style. So this looks like it's about, well, let's do this. So let's make this actually a little bit bigger. Font size, let's make this 3 rems. And then I'm going to do a pseudo class. So we'll do secondary header, and I'm going to do after. And anytime you use before and after pseudo classes, you always have to have this content property. If you don't have it, it won't work, it won't show up. You don't have to have anything in it, but it has to exist or it doesn't work. So we're going to do content, we'll do display block, and I'm going to do border bottom 1 pixel solid, and I'll just do kind of this dark grayish black. And I'm going to say width 200 pixels, and I want to center it, so I'll do margin 0 auto. And we'll see how that looks. It's probably going to need some padding. Oh, that's not too bad. I don't think that's too bad. And let's make that uppercase. Get things out of the way here. I'm going to do padding bottom. Let's just do, let's see if 1 rem is enough. Yeah, I think that's enough. And I keep saying I'm going to do text transform. Oh, actually I put this in the wrong spot. We would actually want this to be padding top to push it up. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then I'm going to say text transform uppercase. Yeah, I like that. That looks good. And if you see me doing something that you don't understand or you have a question about, please feel free to leave me a comment, let me know, and I will do my best to answer your questions. Now we know that this inner wrap is controlling, is display flex and controlled by Flexbox. Let's just add our 1/2 now. So I'm going to come down here and say, and you know, presumably I would reuse these classes. That's why I want to keep them as simple as possible. So if I'm in a situation where I have 2 items that I want to be positioned specifically to take up roughly half, I just want to be able to put 1/2 as a class on. Obviously, there are frameworks out there that take care of that for you. But we're kind of rolling our own today. We're not using a framework, but we can work in a way that is modular and helps us down the line if we add more features. So for 1/2, I'm going to do flex 0, 0, and I'm going to say 49%, which leaves a 2% gap. And let's see here. If it just leaves a 2% gap, flex 49%. Let's see, we need to make sure, we've got some image styles here. So let's go back up and let's do some styles for our images. So in order for images to be responsive, we need to be max width 100% and height auto. Will that fix it? Yeah, that fixes it. And so now you can see here that because we did justify content space between, that automatically pushes both containers to the edge. And since each is only 49%, we automatically have that 2% gap in the center. That's my preferred way of doing that. I think it works really well. Certainly you could do that any way you want, but that's my preferred way of doing that. Now let's work on this image. And really, this should not be a div. This should probably be a figure. That is the correct semantic way of doing that. So I'm going to change this container outside of this image to a figure, and it's going to need a little additional styling because it by default puts a lot of margin on figure tags. You can see there, put a lot of margin on. So let's make sure that our figures are margin 0. I think that'll fix it. Yeah, it does. So right here. I think that is a better, more semantic way to do that. Let's make sure now that if we have an image inside of 1/2, I'm going to make this position relative. And then we'll do 1/2 with an image. So any container that has an image element, I am going to, well, we're also going to have to do, I think we can do max width 100%, height 100%. I don't know if max width is going to cut the cake here for that one. Let's see. So the image then is going to be position absolute. I always do top 0, left 0, and then this always needs to be width 100%, height 100%, and then I want to do object fit. Can't tell which one is highlighted. Object fit cover. I want that image to fit the entire container, and I want it to always be proportional. So let's see if that worked. Did not. So our height, we did do height 100%. Our image, this is also 100%. Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to do height 0, padding bottom. Is it 100%? It's 100%. Let's do 100%. I know that 56.25 is 16 to 9. And that's too big. So what I'm trying to do here is create a container where this image is always proportionally sized inside the container. And when you have height auto or even height 100%, but then you absolutely position something inside of that container, the absolute positioning takes it out of the flow. So there is nothing to hold it open. The container collapses because as far as this figure is concerned, the image is completely taken out of the flow with absolute positioning. It's a very aggressive way to do positioning, but it's also really appropriate in this situation, and it works really, really well. The way you get that container to stay open is you say height 0, here's on the figure, you say height 0 and you do padding bottom. Now, this percentage is always a percentage of however big the parent container is. So 56.25 with a parent container that is 100% wide. If you look here at the size of this ratio is 16 to 9. The reason this looks so tall is because this only takes up 49% of the parent container. If it were 100%, you would see a perfect 16 to 9 ratio image. So we actually have to cut that in half. So half of, let's see here, 56.25 divided by 2 is 28.125. Let's see how that looks. And you can see here, this is roughly a 50% reduction, but it's 16 to 9. It still has that 16 to 9 aspect ratio. Let's see what the Photoshop template looks like. It's not quite 16 to 9. So I bet we could, what is the size of this? Why aren't you telling me how big you are? Oh, there we are. 590 by 326. What is that ratio? So that ratio, 590 divided by 326, 1.82. Let's do the other way. 326 divided by 590 is 55.25 divided by 2, 27.62. I'm going to do 30%. So I'm just going to say 30%. I'm going to do 33%. Yeah, I like that. That looks a little more comfortable. And then I think that these are aligned so they're centered on that axis. So we can also, I'm pretty sure we're doing flex start, aren't we, on our inner wrap. No, we're doing align items center. Are those centered? Oh, this is also getting padding bottom. That's why. So I think we're gonna have to put an extra class there. So let's just put an extra class here called image 1/2. Yep, and we're gonna want to do 1/2 I don't want all of these styles to. There we go. So now you can see that the content is aligned horizontally. And I'm actually, yeah, I mean, I guess for now I'm going to leave it like this. I don't know if you would always want it to be aligned horizontally. But I suppose as long as you have our Flexbox style here. Yeah. I'll take this out. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it like this for, no, I'm not. I'm gonna do Flex Start. I think it looks weird. So instead of align item center, I'm gonna say Flex Start, which is the default. Let's open up CSS Tricks. Flexbox. Stretch. I was forgetting about stretch. So Flex Start means those containers always align at the top. Center is what we were just doing. Stretch is where you hold them open. I'm gonna keep it with the default, which I know is Flex Start, and if we need to go from there, we can. Yeah, that's probably a better, I think that's a better approach. We could also just take align items out and define this individually on each container. Let's see if we have to do that as we go, but I think for now this is fine. I'm fine with this. So we have our H2, we have our H2, we have our content. Now we want to put in these icons here and make them gold. We can do that. And where are our icons? We put them down here in a container called, a section container called social. And I think I just, put them in as navigation. I am going to, I don't think technically we need a wrap for this. So although I think really the nav container is the inner wrap, because I need the inner wrap in order to define Flexbox. Although I would actually put that on the UL. So let's do a class of inner wrap, and then that will put Flexbox on those icons. And you can see here that it tried to do something with them. So we have our inner wrap on the UL, which I'm fine with, and then our LIs are spaced accordingly. So now we just have to, just do the styling here. So we'll do dot social nav dot we can just do dot social nav, and we're going to say padding 0, margin 0, and no, we do need that to be on the inner wrap. It has to be on the Has to be on the UL, and we also need to do the style type. Yeah, and this is one of those situations where we would actually want, see, this is where I'm reminded, like, oh yeah, you don't want to put these on everything. So we want these to be centered. I defined space between as sort of our default for that inner wrap container, which pushes everything to the outer edges. But in this case, we want that to be centered. So I'm just going to override that, and we'll say justify content, center. And let's see here, I think we're also going to need, oh, we do still need margin. And then let's do, we'll just do social SVG. And I think SVGs by default are display block, aren't they? Pretty sure they are. Let's see, width 30 pixels, height 30 pixels. There we go. That's a little big. And we need a fill. Is there just a gold? Let's do goldenrod. Oh, I like that. I think a lot of linters don't like it when you use those default color values, but oh well. I don't mind them. So let's add a little bit of, we need to add quite a bit of padding here. Oh, and I think we have a border. So let's put a border beneath this inner wrap. So this section, main content, yeah, we'll do content, let's say border, bottom 1 pixel solid. We'll go with that and see how it looks. And we're going to need some padding. We'll start with 2. And so this type of shorthand where you have 3 values means that the first value is the top, the last value is the bottom, the second value is the left and right side. So this is shorthand. I mention that because in the past I've had other developers who have undone my code because they didn't know that or understand that. So, and I think we're going to have to put that on the inner wrap because this spans the full width, which is fine. And I think we need a little more. So I'm going to do main content inner wrap to specifically target a border on that wrap. And I'm going to double this. And I'm going to make this a little lighter. this looks. Let's see here. We need the auto to keep it centered. There we go. Now let's space these out a little bit. I have something on my glasses. Okay. So we need our SVGs, which really the better approach. Well, we want to make sure that these A tags, because A elements by default are inline, but they're wrapped around a block level element, which is fine, they'll still work. I like to make sure that those are display block, just to, I don't know, it just feels thorough to me to do that. And then let's also make sure that these have a little space. So we could do, I think we can do that at the same time. So let's say display block, and let me just show you first what I mean. So let's look at these. Did we already display block our A? And it looks like our A tags are automatically getting WebKit any link. LI text align, WebKit match parent. Huh, okay. Normally, so Chrome, I don't know if this is just something that Chrome started doing. Generally, I have to come in and change the display property of these from display inline, which is what their default value is, to display block. So I'm still going to do that because this could just be a Chrome thing. I'm not even sure. Normally, you would come and look at this in the browser, and it could be because the SVG, is that what that's doing? Our SVGs by default, let me see here, SVG CSS display type. So what is the default? Display. Okay, that's not what I want. I want SVGs. I'm pretty sure they're display block. Default value inline. Okay. I did not know that. I thought SVGs by default were display blocks. So I wonder if it's because I set the SVG to block that it set the parent container to block. Let's check. All right, well, we're just gonna roll with it. This is not behavior that I expect to see. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I set these correctly anyways. Display block, because this could be a Chrome thing. And then let's give this some margin, not on the top and bottom, but on the left and right. So shorthand for padding and margin, if you have two values, is that the first value is the top and bottom, the second value is the left and right. So let's just give this 10 pixels on the left and right and see how it looks. That spaces it out nicely. I like that. Actually, what I think we should do, let's do 5 pixels on the left and right, and then let's give this a little extra padding so it's got a bigger tap target. So this will be 5 pixels all the way around. And by tap target, you can see here the green. You can see here that you see how when my mouse gets within 5 pixels of that icon, it can be tapped. So that's nice that we have a little bigger tap target. So that brings it, instead of 20 by 20, it brings it to 30 by 30. We may want to make that tap target a little bit bigger. I think for accessibility it's supposed to be 48. I want to keep the margin at 5 pixels because I want there to be some space that delineates one from the other. But let's make this, let's do some math. So if so 48 minus 20 is 28 divided by 2, so that would be 14. So you can see now this is 48 by 48, and it does have a little bit of space in between. So you can see there's a little bit of space in between. In fact, I think that I'll put that margin on the LI. So there's our margin, and then here's our tap target. Yeah. So I'm good with that. It's a little more spaced out than the Photoshop document, but it's accessible, and I think that looks good. I like it. I think that looks good. So let's get our Instagram feed lined up along the bottom here. And then we'll take a step back and see what else we want to do here this evening. How long have we been going for? Let's see. About 45 minutes. Okay, so our Instagram feed, we want to take up the full width. So I am not going to put a wrap around it. Yep, I mean really the div class Instagram feed is the wrap, and then we've got the UL with our images, and I'm good with that for now. I don't think this is going to take a ton of styling. Yeah, I don't think this will take a ton of styling, and eventually it would be nice to go to Instagram, go to the Instagram API and actually get these in there. I don't know if the Instagram, it's been years since I've done anything with the Instagram API, so it used to be you just dropped in a script, but maybe we could go and actually just do a GET request for the API and get an API key. We could definitely do that. We're not going to do that tonight. For now, we'll just go ahead and style. So section class Instagram. So let's think about this. What do I want to do? I looking at my header class, secondary dash header, secondary dash header, and then we'll do Instagram feed. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here yet. Maybe we can just start with the UL. We'll do margin 0 auto. Well, no, we're not centering anything. Padding 0, and then list style type none. So that will remove the default padding and bullets. And then I think on the UL we could do, we are gonna, well, but inner wrap is gonna pull it in. So we need to do display flex, but we can't use our default values because our inner wrap has the display flex default values, but it also contains it and pulls it in. So this is a situation where on the UL, I'm also going to put display flex, flex flow, which is row no wrap, which should get everything lined up. That's good. And then these images, let's see here. We need to tell this to be doesn't matter. This is already so we know we have 6 images. So I think the best thing to do is 100 divided by 6, 16.66. This is the other, I don't want to call it a downside to building without a framework, but it's these little things that seem so simple and like you shouldn't have to really think about them. These are the things that you actually, that I have to stop and think about the most because I don't have a framework that's just controlling all of these things for me. So it's a good exercise to have to do this without a framework to remember how things work together. Frameworks are awesome. They are amazing. I have like a little mini framework that I use all the time in my personal projects and a lot of the times in my client projects. But doing this with vanilla CSS kind of brings me back to the basics. So if you see me sitting here and you're like, this woman doesn't know what she's doing, she has to stop and think about everything. Yeah, it's because I'm not using a framework. I have to stop and think about everything. I'm so used to just plugging in a function or a, in SAS, there are mix-ins and includes. I'm so used to having all of those things predefined for me. I can just pop them in and everything works the way it should. I'm not doing any of that here. I have to stop and think about every single thing. And that's a good thing. You should be doing this. This is a good exercise for you to remember how things work together. So I want you to understand that. I want you to understand why this is important to do this and why it's good to get back to basics like this. Okay, I digress. So we're going to do flex 0, 0, 16.667%, and I think this is going to make it the full width. Yeah, it does. It makes it the full width, But now we have to position that image inside of that container. So we're going to do this the same way that we did the other image up here. So here's our actual image. Here's our A right here, the social A. So we're going to say position relative, again, aggressive, but totally appropriate in this situation. Display block. I think it would actually be better to do it on the LI. So anytime you do position absolute, it is absolutely positioned to the parent container with the position relative. Most of the time, that's the immediate parent. In this case, I'm going to do this on the LI, which is technically the grandparent. I think that that's a better way to do this. I might eat my words. Let's do it this way and see how it goes. So this is going to be position relative, and it's going to be width. Well, we'll do max width 100%. We already technically have a width by using flex. The height is going to be 0, and we're going to do padding bottom. So for this it would be 6 divided by 100, which is, I think, 16.667. I'll see if this works. I think it'll work. We'll see. See what happens here. So yeah, 319.34. So this gives us 6 equal boxes. And now we'll do Instagram image. So now this will be position absolute. I always do top 0. I always do top 0, left 0. Width 100%. Height 100%. And then object fit is going to be cover. And that should proportionally fill the box. And there it goes. Beautiful. Love. So here we are. Regardless of how big this is, we have 6 perfect boxes. Nice. Love that. Love that. Love that for you. Okay. So now let's style our header, which doesn't look quite right. Why didn't you look right? So secondary header. Did I do something special up here to this header? No. Secondary, did I spell it wrong? Secondary header. Usually it's because I spelled something wrong. Oh, I never saved it, that's why. There we go. So this is a smudge smaller than this. Maybe technically you could call it like, well, okay, let's attempt to be true to the mock-up. And instead of making this a secondary header, let's make this a tertiary. We'll call this tertiary header. So I'm going to do this right here. Tertiary header. And if our secondary has a font size of 3, I'm going to give this a font size of 2. A font weight of 300. We'll do some letter spacing of 1 pixel. I am going to text align center and text transform uppercase. Did I spell it? Yes, I usually 9 times out of 10, the reason something doesn't work is because I spelled it wrong. There we go. Do we have enough space there? No, we need a lot more space. So let's give a little extra space to our icons. So our social. Our social container is just social. Let's just do a margin bottom. I don't know. Yeah, that looks about right. And then follow, okay. Let's update our markup. So I'm going to give this P tag a class, and I'm going to say, I'm going to call it just going to call it the description. Where is my header styles? So this is always going to be text align center, letter spacing 1 pixel, but it's a P tag, so I don't want it to really have any. Yeah, that looks fine. And then, I mean, really, it needs to be something that says it's a link, right? This has no indication that it's a link right here. It should, because that will make it accessible. So, but it doesn't have to be bright blue. We could make it gold. Let's make it gold to match the icons. Yeah, I'm good with that. I do think that it needs to be, let's just make all of our links. So I don't like it when the links by default have an underline, or at least not in this design. So we'll say text decoration, none, and we'll say color goldenrod. See how that looks. Yeah, I like that. So the spacing seems a little off. So I think we need less space here and more space after the description. So really, I'm going to reduce under the tertiary header. So we would do I'm just going to say under the tertiary header, margin bottom 0, and then over the Instagram UL, I will put like maybe 2 rems on top to push it out. Maybe a little bit more. Should really put that on the feed, not on the UL. We'll just say margin top, let's do 3. Yeah. I like that. I do like that. All right, I think we can do our footer, and then I'm gonna be good for today. So yeah, we've been going for a little over an hour, so let's knock out our footer, and then let's talk quick about what we're gonna do next week. Next week, we will make sure that this is responsive. So we'll make sure that this layout's responsive, and we'll make sure the layout's responsive, and we'll make a drawer for this hamburger menu. So when you're on mobile, you can click the hamburger menu. I would like to do one that animates. So when you click it, it goes from this to this, and then a drawer comes out, and we see these navigation items. If we have time, we could also do there's a couple of ways to do search. We can click that icon and have an input appear. We could click the icon and have like a whole nother drawer come open with a search input, or we could click that icon and just do like a modal, a pop-up modal. So, excuse me, I'll think about the thing that I want to do with that search icon if we get to it next week. I feel like if I'm going to continue to stream for about an hour and a half at a time, I think just making the layout responsive and doing that drawer will be plenty for next week, and then we could work on search the following week. But let's go ahead and see what's happening with this footer. So let's take a look at this. So this is for sure going to need our wrap. So we've got, where are you? Huh. Why aren't you letting me? There we go. Possible I locked it. Okay, so we have the copyright on the left, we have the name in the center, and then we have our little made with on the far right. So this is perfect for Flexbox. So here is our footer. We're really going to need that inner wrap, aren't we? So let's do a div.inner hello, inner underscore wrap. You should be remembering that, Emmett. Don't know why you're not. Oh, here's why that was doing that to me. Cancel. There we go. So we can see that. And you can see here how quickly that aligned everything. Just by putting the inner wrap on. So let's do footer. And I think, where's our header styles? I mean, it's gonna match our header really, really closely. Yeah. I'm actually just gonna take these. I really just want it to match. I want the header and the footer to match. And that means then that our text is also going to be white. Let's see how that looks. I mean, that looks pretty good. Oh, the far left and the far right are gray, but I'm not going to do that super light gray because, in my opinion, that's not accessible. We could scale it back a little bit though. So maybe do something like this. And here, I'll show you how we can check a really easy way to check accessibility in the browser. So you can see that this is a little, not quite that stark bright white. So when we look right here, here's that color. If you hover over this little box, click, it will tell you the contrast ratio of the text against the background. And this contrast ratio is 13.22. So that's really, really good. You could test different ratios. 11.71, also really good. E. I'm trying to remember what's darker and what's lighter. I think that A is darker. There we go. So if we do on the darker end, AAA, it meets the double A rating but not the triple A rating. So if we do BBB, that's pretty light, but it does still meet both ratings. I like that, actually. Let's go with that. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So we'll do BBB, and then I'm going to say text, transform uppercase, and we'll put in some letter spacing. I think we did 2 pixels of letter spacing last week. Yep, we did. And I'm not going to reduce the text. I know the text is much smaller in the mock-up. I really, for accessibility's sake, I don't like reducing the text. You know what I really love though, is I love the footer right up against these images. So I'll put it on the to-do list to get an API key from Instagram and pull in data for an Instagram feed. I think that would look really cool, and I just love seeing. Let's refresh here and see if we can get a new set of images. Even that looks nice. I love that. I think it looks really, really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and let's just upload. Let's get this committed right now. You know what? Let's do one last thing. I don't really love this black. What I might have to do, the other thing we're going to have to put on the list, I think what I'm going to need to do is just make a to-do list of all the things that I want to do with this layout. I mean, the number one goal is to just get this layout going, but there are so many things that we can do with this. We have a lot of really great opportunities. So this week, I'm going to make a list of things to do, and I'm going to include that in the README in the GitHub repo. And maybe just sort of plan out the next several weeks of what we can do to build this out. Yeah, I think that'll be really fun. But to finish the original thought, the original thought is let's actually pick some images. I mean, if we're going to go and grab an API key and build an app and pull in data from Instagram, let's actually write some content, pick some images, make a decision about what we want this header image to be, because I'm not loving this black text, but I don't want to change it to white because I'm using basically image ipsum, placeholder ipsum, and that image could be anything. So here the black is fine. Here the black is not fine. Yeah, here the black is not fine. So we need to actually choose an image, but I think what I will do is I'm going to change the font weight of that header, because I also don't like that it's 400 and I want to change it to 300. So where are we here? The hero is the hero text font weight 300. But if we at least choose an image, I like that a lot better. If we at least choose an image, then we can make a final decision on color. And we may have to put a treatment behind it with some opacity to cover up part of the image for the sake of the text. Otherwise, I think this is looking really good. I'm really liking this a lot. So I will make a list this week. Oh, let's go ahead and commit. Finish one thought, Angela, before you do the next thing. So I always do a git status to remember what branch I'm on. I only have one branch, but it's just a habit. I always do a git status to remember what branch I'm on. So we'll git add, git commit, and I'm going to say finishing basic layout of HTML and CSS, git push origin main. And so now I have that pushed up to my GitHub. So if you would like to fork this or grab it for a project or use it, you are free to do so. I might even go ahead and deploy this so you all can see this in the browser on your end as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love having you here. If I'm being honest, there's nobody watching this live stream right now. That is totally fine. I'm going to be here every week doing stuff like this because I love being a developer. I love being a front-end developer. I love solving problems. I love building UIs and writing CSS. And I know that if I continue to show up, people out there will find me and will also continue to show up. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you happen to catch me on a live stream, I'm looking at comments or I'm looking at the chat. I'm happy to answer questions as I go. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.